We should be extra efficient tonight because there are a few.
We should be extra efficient. No discussions. Okay, everybody, let's get started with the Nantucket Conservation Commission meeting for March 6, 2019. We are recording, so if you are recording, please let us know. And if you could silence your cell phones, that'd be appreciated. First, we're going to start with a public meeting, public comment for items not being heard tonight. Seeing not, good. We're going to go to public hearing where we have a lot of continuances here. Starting with the Town of Nantucket 4 Bathing Beach Roads, continued till March 20th. BBS Hummock Pond LLC, 289 Hummock Pond Road, continued till March 20th. Jemison, 195C Hummock Pond Road, continued till March 20th. 21 Crooked Lane LLC, 1 Westchester Street Extension, continued till March 20th. Abrams Point Realty Trust, 30 Rabbit Run Road, continued till March 20th. LHGS Holdings LLC, 15 Cathcart Road, continued till March 20th. Pennant Realty Trust, 4 and 5 Costaica Courseway, continued till March 20th. Loretta Lane nominee, 5 Loretta Lane, continued to the 20th of March. RJG Nominee Trust, 13 Crow's Nest Way, continued till the 20th of March. Booyah LLC, 9 Crow's Nest Way, till March 20th. Harvey C. Jones Jr., 16 Old North Wharf, till March 20th. 28 EPR Trust, 28 Eel Point Road, continued till March 20th. And an amended orders of conditions, Nantucket Island Land Bank, 63 Matticat Road, formerly 21 Crooked Lane, continued till March 20th. If anyone's here for any of those and has any comments they'd like to make. Okay. So we are going to start with, where is one? SB Norwell LLC, 104 and 111 Washington Street.
Yeah, well, this is the signed stamp. Great. I can read it too. Great, hi, I'm Katie Barnacle, wetland scientist with AECOM, and I'm representing SP Norwell LLC. And I was in front of you last year for 111 Washington Street, right here next to the new Mariner Way subdivision road for invasive species management. This project here tonight includes part of 111 Washington Street and 104 Washington Street, which is a triangular parcel. Both are right now owned by the town of Nantucket. 111 will eventually be transferred over to SP Norwell. This project is a beautification and redo of the existing parking and increasing parking and helping the traffic flow on Washington Street. SP Norwell is the applicant, and the property is owned by the town. And if you've been down there recently, you have the gorgeous bike path coming in, and then you hit this area which needs a little help. It's kind of has pockets and it's not very attractive. And then you start up again here where it's very attractive with sidewalks and the brick sidewalks and everything. And so what this is formalizing the existing parking that's there now. There's the boat ramp down in here. And this area right now is just compacted dirt and some gravel. And what we propose to do is to put crushed stone in there, rebuild the fences. There's some split rail fences adjacent here. 5 new parking spaces down in here. There's just a little kind of informal parking that people park parallel here. So there's 5 new parking spaces here. And there'll be these edges, the curbing to define where the parking will be. And then we'll be marking all the parking spaces, although we're not quite sure exactly how that's going to be done right now. Since it's crushed stone, you can't really stripe it. You might not want to stripe it down there to keep it more informal. So we're thinking of, it could be signage, it could be maybe some railroad ties defining, each parking spot so people can park head on in. In addition to this work, there'll be landscaping associated with it. And I have that plan here if anyone's interested. Yeah. Sorry, it's so small. They have some nice plantings, inkberry, juniper, bayberry, and some switchgrass. It's one of my favorite grasses. And so it's gonna clean up the area, formalize the parking, and produce like a really nice planting plan. We did do a stormwater report, which is included in the notice of intent. And first of all, the wetland resource areas. We have an isolated vegetated wetland here. We have a coastal dune over here. And we have, it looks like a wetland, it's phragmites and standing water, but it's actually the stormwater detention basin. So it's non-jurisdictional because it was constructed after, I think, 1996 when that provision was included in the Wetlands Protection Act. There's some storm drain defenders, I think it is, as part of a project that the town put in for storm drainage, and that outlets into this wetland and eventually out to the harbor. We're not changing the flows. We're not changing the, we might actually increase the pervious in one area. I think we're taking out a little bit of pavement there. The roadway's still gonna be 20 feet, so we're not changing the orientation of the street. We're gonna include in 2 catch basins that, that this drains into, right here. We're gonna include plastic hoods, which will help prevent trash and catch sediment and trash in the catch basin. That could be maintained and removed. And with the addition of the crushed crushed stone, we will reduce peak runoff rates. The amount's not going to change, but there are some improvements. We tried to improve it. This is kind of a redevelopment project under the stormwater regulations. So we're all in the coastal floodplain. This whole thing is coastal floodplain. We're in the 100-foot buffer to the isolated vegetated wetland and to the coastal bank. And we're asking for waivers for work between the 25 and the 50-foot buffer zone. So we can do that. But we're pretty much redoing what's there now. It's just beautification and a formalization of the parking. And thank you, Jeff and Joe, for being so patient with us as we've revised the plans. We've been working with the town on this. So.
Good.
I am concerned that some of these plant species are cultivars, so we should have them native species.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, because your panicum varieties are cultivars, your ilex and your juniper.
So we can still keep the species and just make sure it's a native, not a cultivar.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And you guys can condition that as well.
Yeah, and
Absolutely. No, it's good. I'm sorry I missed that.
I just want to make sure we have this landscape plan, because the one that's in the packet is slightly different with this parking
Yeah.
area.
Yep,
even though it's
this
dated the
this
same.
was revised, so.
Okay.
We were working with the town and made some changes after we filed the initial notice of intent.
So your plan is to separate all these parking slots with timbers of sort? Because this is popular for boat people who park parallel
Absolutely.
down there.
It wouldn't be parallel. It would be at the
Yeah, it's
head where you park it. Yeah.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
But that's your intent, is to
Yes.
put something in there?
Yeah. Try to keep it as informal as possible.
So you're going to be, am I denoting berms here too? Slate berms for, especially
Just
this one?
using existing materials, nothing, we're not bringing in any fill.
Okay, well, I'm just going to think that maybe it could be advantageous for this particular wetland, just to reflect any,
Oh, I see.
something slight.
Okay. Right, because that would provide a little bit more of a
A
buffer.
little bit of a buffer for you.
Because right now,
Yeah.
some of the stormwater drains that way.
Oh, there is some in that one too. Yeah.
Well, I think the majority
naturally,
of it flows
yeah.
this way, but there is.
Yeah.
There's a big puddle that
Yeah, yeah.
originates right there. and
Yeah.
It runs,
Yeah.
I've visually seen it running back,
Run back
Oh,
in.
really? Oh, okay,
running
right.
into this wetland area.
Yeah, if the commission,
It's so hard packed there from parking.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, just take advantage of that
I'd like
aspect
to
of it.
touch on
Yeah, I like that idea too. If the commission will allow us, then that would be great. You know, it may not be too big, but at
Right.
least berm it up somehow.
Slightly, just to, yeah,
Yeah,
just right there in
Yeah.
the wetland. But,
no, it's good.
other questions, thoughts?
I think the gravel will probably help
Yeah,
keep the water a little cleaner anyway.
Right.
in there.
Like that, it's getting tightened up.
I mean, it's
looks
already
so
parked.
nice down
Mess
there.
down there.
That bike path is really nice.
Pretty cool.
I hadn't been down there in a while, and I'm like, all these ducks started following me.
Looking for the bag.
Yeah.
So, how many are these? How many parking spaces do you think you can get out of
Originally, there was 39, and then we have this additional 5. So 39 plus 5
I've never seen that
is-
many. Well, I suppose it does get pretty crowded in the summer.
Yeah. And really, the formalization is for those heavy times.
Yeah,
But it certainly was busy there today. You know, a lot of people using the area.
yeah. Oh, cool.
It's a good project.
Okay. So no other questions? Questions from the public on this one? No? Okay. No other questions. Jeff, we have everything we need to close on this?
We do. We're just waiting for the plans and the one signature page, and we are ready to go.
And can you condition the berm?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
okay.
And sorry about the cultivar. Sorry I missed that.
Everybody misses that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd like to close?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
Motion to close?
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is yours.
I thought it wasn't done. Okay, Harborfront Realty Trust, Village Way.
There you go, Paul. You can use those too.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Sanchez with Nantucket Surveyors, representing the owner and applicant Harborfront Realty Trust. If you remember, we were at the last meeting for a notice of intent for the removal and reconstruction, if you will, of a set of beach stairs at the end of Village Way. At that time, we had the DEP file number. However, we did not have an opinion letter from NHESP. We have since received that. It was a no adverse effect under the Wetlands Protection Act and will not result in a prohibited take under the Mass Endangered Species Act. So we have both items that we needed to close the hearing. There was one issue raised with regard to the top landing of the stairway that Ashley had brought up. So what I just did was, this is an actual picture, which is
Existing.
really not defined too well in the application, but this is the actual top of the landing. And that area in question, actually, when we looked at the plan a little bit further, actually, it's basically a 2 foot by 4 foot, it's a bench, is what it is. It's a bench at the top of the landing. And when you look at the plan, you'll see the difference between, we're removing some of this platform that's there now and then shortening it up. And David asked what the area difference was. It's basically a wash. We're basically,
It's a swamp.
it's about 10 square feet. It's like 10 square feet of bench that's getting added, and it's 10 square feet of this platform that's getting removed. So at the end of the day, the decking on the top is the same. The platform is basically going to occur on this side, or the bench is going to occur on that side of the upper landing. So I've left it on the plan. I did not revise the application. I would like to leave it there if we can. As I said, it's essentially an 18-inch by 4 foot wide bench on the top section of the platform. And at the end of the day, it's actually no different structure than what's there now when we do remove a piece of it coming back. I can answer any questions that you may have.
You guys have any more questions?
That was it.
No. Any questions from the public? No? Okay. Jeff, do we have everything we need?
We do.
Would like to close?
Yes.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Where are we here? New England Development, 15 South Beach Street. Oh, don't say that.
To see when you're
We weren't gonna be.
Well, that's possible. That's not even late.
Oh, yes, pictures.
I'll just pass it down.
As long as I get the key.
So Rick Bodette for the applicant and Katie Barnacle here with me, or I should say I'm with Katie today. I wanted to make sure I attended today and make sure that the commission is aware that we started work on this project without the benefit of an order of conditions. So, and I think that's largely my responsibility. We permitted this, even though it's a small deck and covered deck, we permitted this planning board twice, the HCC, the building department, everywhere else, and I never once crossed my mind that it was in the floodplain and within your jurisdiction. So I'm certain that Katie wasn't consulted in any way on it. And I'm sorry that it happened, and it's only the second time in my career it's happened, so it's a bit embarrassing, but here we
You're
are.
young, Rick.
Hair's still all
Sure, yeah,
blonde.
thanks, but it'll happen many more times, I'm sure. Thanks.
Hundreds.
But nonetheless, this is where we are, and we, Jeff and Joe, I think, drove by and asked us to put the brakes on. We did, and here we are.
So I'll hop into that to say is they're lucky in the sense that I think all of us drive by it at least like 4 times a day, going to and from the office. But we let them know. They asked Katie. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, we should have filed." We let them secure some materials, and they literally left it in place. So they just kind of stopped everything until it was heard. So they're very compliant. I'm not saying that should influence the hearing at all, but that the mistake was realized and everything did stop. So
We appreciate your hard work.
Okay.
So the project, if I may, Rick?
Sure.
Okay. What was existing, it's the addition of the deck that's not in this pink or reddish stripe.
Right.
What was there before, if I can give you these, because these photos are great. This is part of the HDC filing. If you look at photos 4, 5, and 6,
The cooler.
that is what was there before. There was a 6-foot fence, there was a patio, and there was a deck. And then if you look at photo 4, I want to follow along with the numbers. Oh, I didn't give you one, sorry.
it's all right.
And if you look at photo 4, that's the fence that is now down, and the deck has come out 3 feet. So there is existing work there. There's no new impervious areas because it was either pavement or it was disturbed with either pavement, patio, or existing deck. The 6-foot fence has come down and will be replaced with a 3-foot knee wall, except the back side, the one that looks on photo 3, might be a little higher so that we can prevent guests from looking at the mess behind or that's the freezer. It's not a mess, it's a freezer. On photo 3. So, and it does have a roof. It's all in the floodplain, not within any other resource areas or within 100 feet of any other resource areas. There's no change in grading. Jeff and Joe did ask for plans showing elevation, and we did get one. And Paul from Nantucket Surveyors had updated the elevations. This is a 2006 plan. I'm just submitting it now, and thank you again for your patience, and I'll PDF these to you.
Sure.
It's a 2006 plan, and then in 2016, it was double-checked and updated with a different datum. So I don't know if anyone's interested in seeing those plans. It's just what was there with some spot shots, some elevations. And that's to make sure that our work is not changing the elevations, which we're not. So we don't believe that this project is changing in any way, shape, or form any impacts to the coastal floodplain, any of the interests of the coastal floodplain. And we ask that you issue an order of conditions allowing us to continue.
What is this, like, because it looks like there's patio here, is this new deck gonna actually allow for more flow through with flooding? Like, has this patio been pulled up?
I'm not
That's
sure.
there?
I don't think they can too much with the
Yeah.
door
It's not gonna
entrance. Looks
stay
like it's
there.
pretty low building.
Yeah, I don't know if they're building right over it or they're taking that up. I do not know that.
It'd be nice if there was a little permeability. But,
Yeah.
but there'll be a space under there at least,
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, water can flow.
Yeah.
through.
And the 6-foot fence is down. There's a shorter, lower one, but
Yeah, that's pretty low.
improvement.
And I guess
Some flow.
The water can
same-
flow into that too.
The knee wall
Right.
you're proposing, would that allow flow through? What's that?
I think
No.
that's solid.
That's solid.
To the ground,
Yeah, so
To
that,
the deck.
to the deck, so it'll be on top of
To the deck.
though.
It'll probably be on footings.
But
I mean,
then
this is
that'll
this
flow
is
onto the
essentially a
deck.
covered porch.
Yeah.
With a knee wall around most of it.
right, so the knee wall, I mean, if you have storm flow, you wanna make sure that,
Oh, so it's actually getting a roof over it.
Yes.
and have you done like stormwater
Yeah.
infiltrators from the new roof or looked at any of that?
What are you doing with your runoff?
I don't know if we've considered that.
Is that part of the HDC filing?
But it was, he said it's over basically old concrete or something,
Some of it is paved. Yeah, there's a parking lot there now.
so it
Or
won't,
3 feet
it
of
won't
it.
really affect the runoff because it was already,
Yeah, it was
it's
already
going over
already-
impervious
And we
surface.
own the parking lot, so any deflection, if you're concerned about that, and I know when people build walls,
Yeah.
you know, when waves hit it, there's that deflection. We're not in a wave zone, but if anything happens, we own that parking lot right there, right next to the wall.
Mhm.
I think normally I look for some sort of water infiltration when we're adding roof. Might not
I
be
know,
the
'cause it's
easiest
not like
thing
this-
here, but
There isn't infiltration already, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
what's the groundwater there, it's probably,
Very high.
yeah.
yeah.
I can tell you across the street, kind of catty corner, it's about 18 to 20 inches beneath the surface, under good conditions.
so I guess this is again where I think in the future when we think about this creativity for stormwater management and even having rain barrels as planters where some of that stormwater from the roof would go through your planter barrel, get absorbed, and then you have less reaching the ground. Because that is used in cities and things, even though we don't tend to look at it here.
Yeah.
But we need to.
I don't have a problem with the patio.
No, I think it's fine.
I mean, it would be nice if some type of runoff thing, just for your own sake, because it's gonna be a lot more water coming. You get down and you don't wanna be dumping it into the yacht club's property necessarily.
Well, we can get you the information of what's proposed. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I don't have that here tonight.
No, I just think from a restaurant point of view, they probably don't want big gushing,
Right.
even from that
And
point of view.
Yeah,
They
it's
probably,
gotta be gutted.
Well, I know that the main building is guttered,
yeah,
so
yeah, so find someplace to put it.
I mean, you could certainly include a condition where the new roof be guttered and disposed of in a responsible manner of some way.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Certainly something that's there, and if they can't do that, they can come back to
right, I'm sure they'd be
amend or
guttering it
modify
anyways,
the
but
permit
yeah,
if that's in
just as a general.
total contradiction to another permit that they've
Yeah.
gotten. But seeing as the rest of the building is guttered,
Yeah.
I would assume that this section probably will
I
also
would
get
think so
guttered.
too.
Absolutely.
That
Get
you could
with people's-
direct that, or you could even put, and direct it if possible into, a planter or something that's there
Yeah.
for them to do.
Big plan.
You could ask.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not.
And then
saying
if
anything
that's,
elaborate, like I said, there's not much
if that's not
infiltration
possible, they can
capacity
say,
there.
hey,
Right.
that's not possible for us, we can
Right,
modify
We'll
it from there.
clarify that.
But
yeah.
I think that can be
So-
conditioned.
Yeah, I think that's fine for us. I mean, it's not a big roof, but
And I think that could be,
condition it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could be a staff thing. I don't necessarily think that has to come in front of us,
No,
again.
we can deal with it.
Other thoughts? Any questions from the public? Simple. Okay. We have everything we need?
We do.
Would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Move to close.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Great,
Thanks, guys.
thanks.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just make sure they get put in. Thanks for.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for getting it in and
Is this,
getting it out the door.
zip, zip, zip? I love it. I'm not doing
We're on
that.
to RVAs.
I've done one of these for a while. Okay, request for determination, 28 Lily Street, 28 Lily Street. Oh, what's that?
Hey, how you doing? Good. How are you?
Jeff Blackwell for the applicant. This is a project that is at 28 Lily Street, and the project proposes to replace a section of the east and north foundation walls, which is the foundation wall in that section, this highlighted section is structurally unsound. And also to add a enclosed porch. Both elements of this work are approximately 90 feet away from the wetland, and that's why we filed the RDA.
Challenging. Any questions? No? Any questions from the public? No? No question, Jeff?
No.
All right.
Definitely do not have any questions.
We have everything we need?
We do, and I would say that if you guys are looking at this, that we did verify the resource area boundaries. So I think we would recommend the positive 2A determination on the resource area boundaries, and then the negative 3 determination for the work in the buffer zone, not requiring a notice of intent.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Someday I'm going to give you guys a test on the buffers.
Passes unanimously.
Or
I knew to
Oh.
positive two-way for
for
that.
What
request
they
for
mean.
determination.
Oh, God. Okay. Certificates of compliance. Gibbs,
All right, so
4 Galen Ave. Go ahead.
we can. They're requesting withdrawal of the certificate of compliance. They sent their as-built plan in, and I will tell you that we were not satisfied with the amount of grade changes within the flood zone, so we sent it back. Said, we'll talk about it next week on a different filing for that same property to get it back to where it is supposed to be.
Okay.
So they're withdrawing that certificate of compliance request. So you just need to accept the withdrawal.
Okay. So
Move
moved.
to accept the withdrawal.
Do you have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Passed unanimously. Orders of conditions.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All of a sudden. You guys are going too fast.
Fast way?
No, I think-
Yes.
I
This
think-
is not like you guys. We're normally only on like the second notice of the day.
I think we've
at
done
this
a
point.
half-hour meeting once.
We'll try to slow it down.
Yeah, we missed the half-hour line, although we did start late.
This
The
is
best board. The best board.
I think we had 28 left.
Oh.
Yeah. Can't remember what it was. but it was something.
Yes, the first one is SP Norwell. So I think on SP Norwell, from the one tonight, we'll want to add a 31 That no cultivars are to be allowed.
What number? 25?
31.
30. Oh, sorry. I have the wrong one.
I thought you were just giving yourself some distance.
Yes.
Future.
Sorry.
I just like, whatever.
Number 25, no cultivars.
So do we,
What about the?
yeah, we have 21 kind of talks about, do we scrap 21?
Oh,
Yeah, we'll scrap 21 altogether. Or why don't we just change 21 to read no cultivars are allowed.
that's better.
You want to have a berm?
Yes.
Yes. How about, so that's 25.
Yes, and then 25. Did you guys want it to be just a vegetated berm?
That makes sense.
Something bigger than the 4-inch Cape Cod berm.
Shall be installed. To prevent runoff into the resource areas.
Was there anything else? Yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Actually, I want to change that. Sorry, a vegetated berm will be installed to prevent runoff into the vegetated wetlands. Sorry, we just would have put resource areas. It gets really awkward because you're totally within land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is a resource area. I don't think they have the ability to prevent runoff for the whole thing. So, by a little berm, that would be an amazing berm.
Nice big pond. Okay, everybody happy?
Very good.
Someone like to make,
The date, wait, the date's wrong.
Oh.
It's 2018 at the top.
Oh. So I usually edit those anyways because that happens a lot. But thank you for catching that. It saves me the trouble of catching it later.
okay.
I think now we're ready.
Actually, that's
And now I move to issue as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
All right, then, Mr. Chairman, if we could
Yep.
skip, we'll move Vineyard Wind to number 4. Just trying to get a response back from council, giving them as much time.
On Vineyard Win?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go to Harborfront Realty Trust, Village Way.
Yeah, I really didn't have. That was for the beach stair replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna.
We're
Early.
at the beginning of the year.
It's at the beginning of the year. If it gets into May and I'm still doing it. That was kind of an in-kind stair replacement. I know the top shifted a bit, but couldn't really think of many conditions.
Nope. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well,
Move issue as amended, I guess, with the date change.
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Bingo. New England Development, 15 South Beach Street.
This is where we want to,
Yeah, I think we'd add a condition 19 that would say all roof runoff shall be directed by gutters. Shall be directed by gutters, period. The applicant should attempt to infiltrate this water through vegetated areas, or as approved by commission staff. And I can't spell vegetated today. All right, so that'd be all roof runoff shall be directed by gutters. The applicant should attempt to infiltrate this water through vegetated areas or as approved by commission staff. Just kind of thinking right offhand, if they built it, they have those giant grass beds right in front. You can almost just
They
put
do
it,
already
put
have
it
a
right to
fair
those.
amount of-
Into their planting.
They have a big planting bed up front.
Big plan or something.
Yeah,
Water feature.
Oh, no.
but that should be
Keep circling it.
fairly simple to do.
Little koi pond. Exactly.
can-
Okay.
Have a little sushi tank.
Pick your fish.
Exactly. Pick your fish.
Okay.
Move the issue as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. You want me to approve minutes?
No, we can go to it. Well, I'll just get creative to how to deal with it. Because I have some changes on it as well, and then also have an issue and that I understand that may need some correction from council that I think we can build into how we issue it to make sure that we're okay. So just to run through, there's a lot of findings on this because we don't get these very often. So we've kind of memorialized just to kind of run through them because we had talked about it at the hearing, trying to incorporate the Division of Marine Fisheries letter into our order as much as possible. So we kind of memorialized the letters from Heritage and the DMF, and then we kind of break out some specific points that obviously this is a water dependent use because we need to make that determination. And then we talk a little bit about some of the impacts shown by the Division of Marine Fisheries, and tie those back to the WPA for some degree. So that would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I won't read them out loud because they're kind of long, but if you want to read through those. And then when people are ready, I'll go through the changes from the draft that I think we're recommending as a staff.
I just have a question.
Sure.
I don't know if this could go into findings. So, like my feeling is that, you know, one cable or these two isn't a big deal, but that multiple cables might be impactful to the seafloor. So is there any way to put that in? Because in a lot of ways, I mean, we obviously have cables going from the island to the Cape, but this going through there kind of sets a precedent to allow cables to go through the water. And with this potential increase in wind farm space,
How they manage power. Yeah.
No,
every parcel going to be allowed to put a cable through, that I find concerning. And I just don't know if there's any way
well,
to put that into the findings.
I mean, I think you could have a finding. I mean, keeping in mind that the project here is limited to the two specific cables. I mean, I think you would have, it would be a very speculative finding. That I think you could have something that says that, you know, something to the degree of the commission finds that the installation of cables through land under the ocean could have a cumulative impact on the interest protected, and then it would be in there. And then if someone else came back to apply and was looking at that order, it may be something to say, but it's not limiting their ability to install any at this point. But it would be memorializing that as an idea. it's not something that we do tons and tons, but I mean, I think if that would be something that would interest people, I mean, I think.
Yeah, there needs to be a record. This needs, I think, yeah. I was
And I
concerned
think,
about that
so
too.
I think if you had a finding 13 that the commission finds that the installation of of cables within land under the ocean could have a cumulative impact to the interests protected and should be evaluated as such. I think if you have that, it would certainly still allow this to go forward, but I think if someone came back, I think that
Made this finding.
you made the finding that multiple could start to, I mean, obviously, I think everyone would agree that no one wants to be running 30 cables or 40 cables or something through there, and obviously the area that's available to travel is
Yeah.
limited as well by a number of factors, and I think we talked a lot about how projects are area restricted to where they can even potentially go through. I mean, I don't know, if you guys don't mind. Can we ask you guys a clarity question? If you guys had any insight to if future projects are developed in your adjacent lease areas, would those cables be running through a similar footprint to where you guys are looking to run?
Not necessarily. I mean, it would be obviously subject to permitting itself. There are a lot of different options that other companies are pursuing as well. They're all theoretical at this point.
Yeah.
But I think it raises an interesting point that I think a lot of policymakers have discussed is how do we do the prospect of at some point upwards of a dozen cables going somewhere.
Yeah.
From various projects. I think it's reasonable to include that as part of this. To say we do need to address the theoretical
Yeah.
future project implications there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Additionally, there'll be some a lot of monitoring associated with this project, which would inform
Yeah.
obviously or otherwise
Mhm.
future developments. That's an important part of this process.
There must be a lot of work out of Europe. I mean, they've been putting offshore wind out there for a decade or more. You guys have a lot of literature that you could just send some citations to us. I'd be interested just to see what the wind farm itself, how that impacts fisheries, both, commercial and recreational, and the same with these cables. I mean, there must be a lot of data on recovery of these cables and what impacts it has and stuff. I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of study, and I think we do try to turn local as well when we can with respect to cabling. There are commonalities to fisheries and to other ocean uses with European projects, but each stretch of ocean is different. So looking at the Nantucket cables and looking at the cables that have run through Vineyard Sound in a kind of more dynamic environment also informs a lot of the work that we do, and of course people on our consulting team have worked on the Nantucket cables and also the cables in Vineyard. But yeah, we'd be happy to supply you with information if you have any questions.
All right, so there's that addition. So if anyone has any questions on the specific findings, we can go through those. I know we don't always have these, but I will be honest in saying it's the first underwater cable project I have directly had to raise the order for. So we don't see a lot of them,
No, but
at least at this point. And
it will be.
it seems like this could be the first of a number. So
Yeah.
it's nice to get a good template from the start. So just to kind of run through the conditions, because I have a couple changes in there. I want to make sure that they made it in there. So number 18 should also include at the end from our normal writing, and then including proposed best management practices in there, because a lot of the documents that were provided talk about that. Number 19, looking at that condition the way I originally written it, it didn't make a lot of sense. So it should instead read, prior to the installation, the applicant shall file the final benthic monitoring plan approved by the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries to the Commission to review, and shall be required to, and it shall be required to be followed under this order of conditions. Sorry, I heard back on that one. And putting that in as an amendment to be adopted makes the benthic monitoring protocol appealable when we don't have the grounds to appeal it because it's not issued by us. So that makes it get filed and memorialized into the order, and keeps it, I hate to say it this way, and it keeps us in our lane of travel and not into someone else's. Yes.
Is it possible for me to just provide one point of clarification?
Sure.
It might be best to say as approved by the Department of Environmental Protection.
Sure.
Even though it's DMF involved in finalizing that plan, the actual approval will be through the Section 401 Water Quality Certificate from DEP. So probably more appropriate to say approved by DEP.
No problem.
Informed by DMF.
Well, we'll put improved by the Department of Environmental Protection. So. And then continuing on to, we'll come back to one of these conditions because I'm going to have a different recommendation because I haven't gotten something back on it, at least not yet, is number 23, that requires the post-construction survey after the pre-construction survey, be filed within 60 days, and then they need to come back to provide an annual report to the commission demonstrating the condition of the area in and around the cable installation to clearly demonstrate any impacts, is how we would write that. And then as we get into a certificate of compliance process, you can have a discussion with them about how that will continue from there. I had it before as a much more confusing condition that didn't make a lot of sense. So that was there. The one condition, and then number 25, the time of year one that was originally with the DMF, is I think it's better to tie the time of year restrictions as it's dictated by the DMF or any other state or federal agency, because as work is going on, those time of year restrictions are going to be upheld by those agencies and not by us. But to memorialize those time of year restrictions into the order is going to be important. So not putting that control to us to determine, but to the regulators who set those time of year restrictions. And then the other condition that I think I'm going to ask for a little bit of weird latitude to is 21. The prior to the installation, the applicant shall provide written sign-off from the town and/or county of Nantucket authorizing the work to occur within municipal waters. There's some question to ask to the necessity of that, and some question that relates to the ability for the select board to have to provide some sort of written authorization back to the commission. So I think I would ask for 21 that the concept of including the select board in some sort of like notification or authorization process, but I think to take that back to council to get that written within something that provides what we're looking for without providing the select board some way to override the decision of the Conservation Commission. If that makes sense to people. Because the way I read that right now, they would have the ability to kind of squash the order of conditions without going through the regular appeals process. But I think the concept of having the Board of Selectmen in the loop and knowing what's going on is kind of the important part of that. So I think maybe taking that back to council to wordsmith that concept correctly. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that make sense to everybody? I just want to make sure we get that portion correct.
One thing to add, Holly had something else. We also want to notify the conservation agent.
Well, you are required to do that by the general conditions.
Okay.
So you have to let us know through a regular, just start work
Right,
notification
standard
process
order.
that's going on, because then we have to start our clocks for pre-monitoring, and then obviously kind of have that dialogue for when you're going through that area, so we know when to start the clock for when that post-monitoring report is required. And I think some of that will also come to bear a little bit probably through that final benthic monitoring report that goes on for what that will look like for time frame. So for better or for worse, we will probably get to talk a lot more after this than we did before. So that's there, but I just want to make sure that those conditions are correct.
Just a quick question. The monitoring, how many years post is that going to happen? Done the first year, it'll be done pre and post. And then
Correct.
afterwards, how
So
many years?
the way our permits work is our permits are a 3-year maximum permit unless they are extended by written request. So that's the duration of our permit. At the end of that permit, when an applicant applies for a certificate of compliance, the commission has discretion to carry conditions forward if they feel it necessary. So not to compare, coastal erosion projects where we're dealing with structures on the beach where there are nourishment requirements and monitoring that goes with that are things that get carried forward because that's a dynamic system that's changing, right? So nourishment's coming on and off and impacts are going on and off. Other projects where you see vegetation get restored, sometimes that condition has been carried forward with a time period to make sure that vegetation's still in. I think at the time, based upon what impacts are being seen, the commission at that point has the ability to extend that condition if necessary as part of that discussion. So
So you have a 3-year period?
yeah, it's a 3-year, and then the order of conditions, I don't want to say expires. They're obligated to maintain the conditions as part of that until they have a certificate of compliance. But you could certainly, if you feel like you're seeing impacts, extending that condition forward is something that's possible. You could even do like a partial certificate of compliance on the work if you're having to address a mitigation situation or dealing with a situation that's more dynamic. And throughout that process, the commission never relinquishes its ability to hold actual enforcement action. So even with an active permit, if there's a situation that's not in compliance, the commission still has the ability to issue out a formal enforcement action to rectify that specific situation. So, and that's with any project, whether it's an underwater cable or building a house, is those things are there.
I think that'd be a good idea, at least minimum of 2 to 3 years, just to see that if, in case they have to put some rock mattresses in there or the cobble, whatever, to go through some good
Yeah.
stuff. So let's monitor and see if it's gonna take. I mean, you know, you would want to believe that a lot of times that any kind of habitat out there, we can boulder, cobble, stuff will grow on it. But there might be something just because of that spot. You know,
Yeah.
the current runs that.
And I think some of that
doesn't go
will get shaken out through the benthic monitoring process that's there.
Yeah.
And I think those typically come with standards for some level of mitigation and restoration.
I wanted to bring something up, remembering a conversation I had with Pete, if possible, and I'm sorry to go back here, but the 60-day window post-construction, so we do a pre-survey and then a post-survey 60 days. Pete, having done this work, indicates, if you do it in certain times a year, it can be not particularly useful depending on the condition of the water. And then in addition to that, depending on where we land, I'm not sure, within 60 days seems like a good thing, but I'm wondering if we can have something included in there that affords some flexibility, because we may find a more optimal time that's 65 days or some other period that we would all agree is a better time to do the post install.
Yeah. Well, I think given that if you guys are interested, we could have a mechanism there that time frame can be extended upon request. Mm-hmm. And then they can, if something comes up and they say, hey, it's been blowing 100 miles an hour and the turbidity has ruined us. Yeah. I think that should be fine.
Season for it.
So this is number 23, Joe.
Yes.
Another option is to tie the timing of the benthic habitat monitoring plan with the similar languages earlier in the conditions where that work will be performed in the timing as specified in the final plan as approved by DEP.
Maybe.
Why don't we put the time frame maybe extended upon request to the commission, or if specified differently by Mass DEP.
And just read it, part of this whole thing, when you do the pre-video, when you go through, they're gonna do your multi-beam side scan. You do the pre-video, and you come up with approximately the course. But going through this video, you're gonna see approximately how much really good habitat that's gonna be disturbed. You know what I'm saying? So at that point in time, you say, okay, we got an easy acre of stuff that we gotta cover. They're gonna cover it with rock masses or cobble, you know, up and barge. So I think you're gonna get a pretty good idea before you get the cable down, what kind of destruction you're gonna do.
And it also aids micrositing too.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for the comment, Peter Kaiser.
I did there if I didn't do it.
Well, just for the record, that was Pete Kaiser. No one can see him, but it's the voice in the background.
So
It's
it's helpful. That is helpful.
Nantucket has been sort of the lost child put out to play, and we sort of depended on the state to look after us for the greater good of, you know,
Yep.
of all being, and we haven't seen that in the past. So
No, I appreciate
we're
it.
trying to cross the T's and dot the I's.
Yep, appreciate
We're
it.
not gonna let anything just blow by.
All right. So
Okay.
if there aren't further amendments, I think the motion that we'd like to have is to issue a positive order of conditions as amended and to be reviewed by town council. So we can get that other condition clarified on the notification and get that wordsmithing correct.
So on condition, well, it was 21, I think it's 22 now, have all the numbers shifted?
Nope,
down?
numbers haven't shifted yet. We just have amended the ones kind of in place.
Yeah.
So on 22, Jeff, are you amending that language to indicate that prior to installation, the company will notify the town and conservation commission, and then is that?
Yes, I just-
That language past the town council?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
We'll let them fix that condition to make sure that we're notifying and doing work correctly.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll move to issue as amended and subject to modification by town council.
Sounds good. We have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
Nope. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll be in touch about that one tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll send that off to her tonight to look at. So hopefully we'll have it in your hands by the end of the week. And we'll make sure we'll get that back and forth between everybody to make sure everyone understands what's
Okay.
expected.
Great, thank you.
I won't be on vacation, so I'll be around to kind
I'm
of
not
shepherd
going
that
anywhere.
process along.
Actually, I had a quick question, curiosity question, I'm not unrelated to this project. Is anyone considering like a transformer platform out there? Does
So-
anyone-
So there will be one, potentially two platforms associated with this project.
With this one, yeah.
I think you're thinking of something, we get into this discussion we had before, which is a far more broad-based.
Yeah, well, I
policy
was
where
thinking,
We've
yeah.
got a major conduit, yeah. And
I was just thinking, I would probably, I guess you'd have to have something like that after a number of turbines.
Yeah, so you'll have, with this project, you'll have 1 to 2
Yeah.
platforms. And then those will collect
Yeah.
and then transmit.
And transmit, yeah.
Yeah,
Not in
again,
our
that's,
jurisdiction, but.
There's always a better way from a macro national perspective.
Yeah.
You guys oppose it?
I think it's gonna be within that envelope,
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah, it's outside our, yeah, it's outside, I'm just curious. Yeah, I know, before, yeah,
And if they
they're
don't, if
pushing
they
for it.
go the other route, if they would even come through our waters, then, this just is,
You're in void. Yeah, just keep it over the vineyard side.
yeah. Just a favor.
All those cables over there. Like a job site with a million extension cords. Okay.
Unless you're gonna swing one down by 104 Surfside, right? Run the cable through.
Okay. Cool.
Get you some solar panels, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Other business, approval of minutes. Excellent. Approved by unanimous consent.
Thank you, Terry.
Monitoring reports.
I do have one. It's not necessarily monitoring, but it's kind of an update in that same vein. Is Arcus Borough sent in a notification to us that Pocomo Neighbors is beginning work on Monday to cover up the sections that were uncovered. So they are starting that work, and he'll be providing the normal monitoring that goes with that. So he's surveying the areas that were uncovered to put on a plan, and then we'll be providing back the nourishment information that goes on top of them.
Okay. Enforcement actions.
I do have a couple. So the first one is not really, it's kind of a friendly enforcement that I need to go out and do our site visit before I bring it to you guys to ratify, so I may end up issuing it without you guys signing it first. But if anyone hasn't been out on Mothball Way, that road in the last kind of week and a half is significantly eroded in spots. Now, if everyone remembers, it went down and had that little cul-de-sac. Well, you can't drive to the cul-de-sac anymore, and it came in. But the problem that's there is there's the town water that runs through that roadway to service those houses, and the middle house of the three. So there's the larger compound that we all know about that we've permitted the moves. Then there's the three smaller houses separately. The middle house is a year-round resident who uses that water service, and right now that water service is estimated to be about 2 feet from being exposed. So the water company is looking to remove it and then make other arrangements for that house. I think they'd like to remove it very quickly. So I think if we issue an enforcement for them to remove it, especially because there's a hydrant in the one spot, and I don't think anyone wants a hydrant to fall on the beach. So we're going to issue that to get started. I think they're going to end up doing a filing for kind of that whole area to redo whatever water service they're going to end up there at some point. But I think we just want to be able to get them this ability to say, cut and cap it, remove what they need to, and then go from there. So there's that one, but I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet. So we'll be out to do that. The second one is out at 290 Pulpus Road. They have some open permits for some work, but they have definitely exceeded the scope of work in a couple sections. So I think we'll be issuing out an enforcement because they are, they created a temporary access point, which is near a wetland, which isn't the worst part of it, but there's a number of piles of brush and debris that are kind of tucked around the corner in the site that look like they are probably actually overlapping into the vegetated wetland in a couple spots. So we did an inspection there today. I just didn't have a chance to get the paperwork done. So we'll be issuing that one as well, but that one will be back for ratification at some point for them to rectify their mess. A lot of it will just simply be kind of pick up, clean up, and then assessment. And then the third one, this happens I guess when I go away for a week, is there's a little bit of a mess going on right now on Pollywog Pond Road. I don't know if anyone knows where Pollywog Pond Road is.
Know that one.
It connects Vesper to Cato. It's just this little, it's kind of across the street from the hospital, this little loop.
Oh, it's a nasty old.
And
Good
right when you
track.
turn on it off is
Well named.
there's a wetland to the right, and with all of our rains and things, is it's overflowed and then flowed into a catch basin that was totally jammed full of stuff because it's never been maintained, it looks like. And it's caused some issues. And there's a group of citizens that are there are all doing the whole like, he dug it out, he filled it in, and they're playing this like name game. So I think what we're gonna do is just send them all a little letter that explains the rules to them, and then try to set up an opportunity to speak to all of them individually. I'm not sure an enforcement is going to come from it. Usually in these situations, we end up with at least one where it's going on. But I think we've been contacted by 2 other people in that neighborhood who are concerned because the water's probably getting closer to where they're living. It's just kind of a mess. We looked. It doesn't look like anyone physically tampered with the wetland at this point, but it is a wet mess, and the neighborhood is a wet neighborhood. And I honestly believe if you rewound the clock about 70 years, that where a lot of those are would probably be wetland under our current rules and regulations. So, just to kind of keep on your radar, or if anyone has a chance to go through there, we may be hearing from a number of them because potential violation letters tend to turn into violations of some form or another. So we'll see. But it's one of these bring it up that we're trying to address it and get those guys together, and we've encouraged them to get their homeowners association that they're required to have from their planning board permits for the subdivision together to set a course of action to deal with their road and their drainage infrastructure that no one ever maintained. And I got we called the town, and the town told us they wouldn't do it, so we don't know what to do. And we said, well, there are lots of other alternatives for cleaning out catch basins and lots of places that provide a service like that on private roads that are not maintained by the town. They were just couldn't believe that the town just wouldn't come and fix their road. So
So it is a private road there.
it is a private road. So
Town doesn't even maintain their own very well.
Oh.
So-
Private road.
Oh, please, don't burden them.
So those are the kind of the 3 active ones, but we're also we're making a lot of trips out right now because the South Shore, especially in the last 2 weeks, has taken some pretty significant erosion in spots. To seek some out, I know we were out at Sheep Pond today. One of the houses that was condemned a year ago is yet a little closer, so that one's kind of back up on the radar. We're just trying to pick up any other ones that are in that area for what's happening.
What is going on with the Tom Nevers town property?
All right, Tom Nevers town property. Well, the paper left. It's a shame they're not here because they tried to get a hold of me late this afternoon.
Because that falls under erosion on the.
It does. So that is one of those great finger pointing exercises where no one is there. So the town is contracting someone to actively just go pick it up and clean it up just to get it out of there. And then the town is going to pursue whatever action they deem necessary from the previous holders of those materials outside of that. So I know they were engaged with a couple of the excavation companies and some of the things to pick up to get as much of that out of there. I think the tank that's most seaward is probably the biggest problem at the moment because it's in the water most of the time, which makes it difficult to get to. But the materials that are coming out of the bank are problematic and are going to keep coming. It's been a question for a while. I mean, I don't want to say it's not been a secret that this day is coming for a very long time. But the discussion is, do you excavate that whole section of bank and just remove it to get all of that material out
Accelerate
and
the
just
erosion
take the
worse.
land loss and just say,
Be
sorry,
a great stabilization
Sorry.
experiment at the end of it.
it's gone, and then put a stable slope back in there. That's what I've been kind of pushing for. That obviously is something that would have to get permitted to do. But it's probably there, but I think it also has to relate to how far back that's going to come, because it may also compromise the roadway infrastructure that's there to get that slope back far enough based upon where the materials end. So how far back is that willing to go, and how is that going to look? So I think the immediate concern is to get the debris that's there up and removed, and then through the summer when that beach is somewhat more stable, have a plan to activate before winter again to prevent the situation from happening. So I don't think there's any disagreement that it's a mess, and the previous owners of that building have not been overly wanting to help out a lot, and they've kind of disappeared. So that's kind of where we're at. So we are actively trying to pick it up. I know we've even had people out there. I know Harbor Master's office had some of their folks out there trying to remove some of it just by hand to get it out of there for what they could. And then I think they're talking to Kenny Coffin about removing some of it. He usually does a lot of their marine debris removal to get him on site just to get back to a line of safety. And then hopefully as the beach rebuilds a bit into summer, the larger tank becomes a lot more accessible. Well, who knows? Maybe even someone like Mr. LaFleur will be removing a tank. We'll have to see. Or we just get some explosives and have a really great time.
Wow, now you're talking.
I'm talking about.
Bunch of little pieces to pick up there.
Little pieces.
Right.
Habitat.
Thank you for that information.
No problem. I mean, it's something.
Concerning pictures for sure.
Well, it wasn't as bad, and I'll say that, and I wish I would have been here. The weather of the last couple weeks has made that a lot worse. I can't say I wasn't here for the bulk of that weather to know how bad it really was, but it sounds like for that section of the island and the whole South Shore, the weather was less than optimal for the beaches there. I know Cisco took a real big hit. Fisherman's did, Smith's Point did, in spots. Tom Nevers did, Maddoxsham did, and then Low Beach as well, kind of up and around the corner even. Took a pretty significant loss from the last 2 weeks. And other spots have built out. Dionis and 40th Pole are looking outstanding. So the North Shore has been retreating during this time period, and the South Shore has not been doing well. So it's been interesting to watch, but it's winter.
That's what it does.
We're one good storm away from that completely changing around. So
Yeah.
Quiet was last year. It was in smoke last year.
I know.
Be quiet, please.
You always forget. Okay, reports. Well, MP's had a meeting downstairs right now. Nothing to report from mine. I don't think there's any other committees. Commissioner comments?
I just have a few, and I guess some of them pertain to the Pocono Neighbors project and the photos I took last week.
yes,
I guess I find it concerning that I go out for a walk and so much of that structure is uncovered, and I just wonder how often people are actually checking in on it.
sure.
And
Well,
also
we can
that
ask.
there's like boat racks right in front of it. Like they had to have seen that sort of thing.
No.
And I don't know if those pictures should be forwarded to the rest of the commission,
I have not seen it.
No, we can't.
just so they can see too, because you feel like these people are just going to be maintaining their structures without prompting, but they're not. You know, I had to walk out there and see it and be a snot taking photos of it and sending them in. You know, how many other places is nobody reporting that things are uncovered? And I don't know if they need like.
Was that recently? At least
Yeah, I went last
week?
like a week ago.
Yeah. I suspect a lot of things are uncovered right now.
But we haven't really had big storms for like
Yeah.
a lot of water contact up
Yeah.
there, so I think it's a lot of wind erosion.
A lot of
but
wind.
Well, I will say, because we actually encountered it on a couple other sites as well, and kind of looking through, we did have a couple high tide cycles that got pretty high within the harbor and caused some similar conditions elsewhere. Because I know we got called by a couple caretakers that had asked about what they were supposed to be doing in different parts of the harbor. So some people do check, and they knew to call, but I think some of it, and again, I wish I would have been here for the weather, because that usually kind of cues us into where we should be. But some of that related to just higher water than normal and coming off, and then I think coupled with the winds is what caused a lot of it. Again, that is literally me mining that information from NOAA and some tidal gauges and some other people I know that keep that information, and then kind of matching that onto weather data that we had, because it holds pretty true. Because I don't have enough human beings to go check all the sites after storm, so we try to use a system that I don't want to say we predict, but with weather and tides, we can tend to predict the areas that we think will be hit, so we make sure we get to those first, and then kind of accessory areas that are prone to it. So we had a couple other ones that we saw that similar condition. So I'm not saying that's what happened for sure, but it may have. So I think when Art is here, and I know he'll be here at the next meeting, and he'll have kind of an update on that, I would definitely ask him those questions. And I'll pass that first question along as well.
And then my second question, and this was actually brought up by an observant student, mind-blowing, is there Phragmites removal actively going on Myacomet Pond right now?
Yeah, we permitted it.
Okay. He just,
So-
well, I know, he just said there was a big recent clearing, and I was like, well, where? He made it sound like it was very new.
No.
On the west side of the pond, so it's
So-
old clearing.
Yeah, I mean, some of it was an area that they did some of their post like pickup of the down material. Because I got a couple calls, and some of my Myacomet Pond watching friends sent some information in, and some of it was just that after they had gone through and cut it, had picked some of it up. I don't think we were overwhelmingly surprised by it, and it wasn't any of the cattails or things that are there. And I know there were native species mixed in and all of these things, and I mean, we traipsed through. I mean, I did that on Tuesday. Traipsed through it for a little bit, and I mean, there are definitely a few natives that were in there, but I'd say less than 1% of the area had stuff that I wouldn't even say is concerning, because it's all kind of year to year. It's kind of perennial things. But I think we'll see what comes back as part of their monitoring that's there. So, but definitely good on your student for noticing.
It's like it's illegal to cut near wetlands, right? And I was just like, wow, I
You
can't
get an
believe
A?
I'm hearing this. So I told him I would bring it up.
No, definitely.
The kid get an
Yeah, no. Sorry.
A?
Okay. Administrative staff reports.
I don't think I had. I think we talked about some of the stuff last time. I was going to say again, everyone I know, Ben said last time that he probably was not coming back, that if people know people that are interested, could definitely pass that information along. It's nice to have 7. It's a good number. You could go with.
Not had 7?
What's that?
No, I said it's nice to have 7.
Have you not had 7 at some point?
No, but we could legally go down to 4. Because the board, even if it's 7, even if there's a seat that's vacant, you could still make a quorum of 7 with 4. But that puts your margin very small, and I think it's a better situation to have more than less. So, if you see anyone, if anyone sees anything else, I know I throw at this all the time, but I do feel like we're just going to have to bite the bullet and do a kind of large-scale regulation update here soon. So I've been kind of putting it off till after SPPF clears. because that way if we do it as just a couple specials, it's less painful than trying to tack it onto a meeting to do. So people keep that in mind. Second part, this is mostly for our chairman. Daylight savings is soon. Our next field viewings will be at 4 p.m.
Oh, much
4
better.
p.m. 4 p.m. So 4 p.m.
Mostly to our chairman, because I wasn't there.
So, well, you were the one that had the lateness issue the one day.
I called you. You did get my phone. You did get my phone message.
Yes.
Showed up there and you guys were just getting back. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, Dave got there at 4 and we had left at 3. So we were going back to 4 because time is changing.
Four is much better.
Like
Yeah.
getting stuck at the school and seeing
Nothing
you
worse
there.
than being in the middle of something.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up children like this last week.
I have a service business. I'm dealing.
That's right.
Hey guys, I gotta go.
I got biz. Give me
No.
that.
But I think that's it. I don't have anything else. We'll get out of here a little bit early tonight.
Yes, we're ready to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Nice work.
That wasn't quick enough.